Hello again, and welcome back to The Works. Jim.
I'm Diane.
And as we have started this series, and hopefully we'll continue it with your help, looking back at some of the things we've talked about and some of the feedback we've gotten, one of the comments we got was some of the other topics we should come up with. So by all means, if there are some topics that you think that would be interesting for us to dive into, or again, maybe you've got an opinion and want to hear ours, certainly drop those comments. Is there such a thing as a subscribe button? What do they smash in this podcast world? Because I've learned that phrase recently from all of my all of these YouTubers and people that I'm envious of. They're making all this money working from home, having fun on their phone, and they always tell you to smash the
like button.
Okay, so what are we smashing here to indicate that people are? Is it the cliche thumbs up? What do they smash, or how do they? Well, we'll figure that out. But so, as I was saying, topics, anything that you might want to hear. And as a matter of fact, one of the comments we've gotten so far is that both of us come from a IT background, information technology, and I think we might do a whole series on how I've spent 30 years in IT, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing here, talking with you, is that I don't want to do it anymore.
No.
I certainly think that my time is up, because what I see in the industry it's maddening. So that's a whole other topic and conversation. But so yeah, we certainly appreciate any thumbs up, liking, what have you. But one of the topics I think that as I've continued to work from home, I'm sure many of you all work from home, or at least have that opportunity to be flexible in your work schedule. Diane has an opportunity to listen in on my meetings, or overhears the meetings.
Word.
And
I am so thankful that I'm not in the industry anymore, because I don't know in my golden-ish years that I could hold my tongue. I mean, I had a hard enough time in my 20s and 30s biting my tongue. I don't know if I would be able to tolerate some of the things that you hear.
And I think what you're more referring to is, again, topic for today, the title, meta tag, whatever that is, to help get us likes and listens. But it's corporate speak.
Oh.
What are the things that you hear that either make sense or don't make sense? Or, we used to play in our day we didn't call it corporate bingo, but it
was bullshit bingo. Is that what we called it? I don't know. You and I got into trouble a lot. Yeah, when they tell you don't let us speak in meetings.
Well, that's for that whole that's for the whole series on our experience in IT. But corporate speak, things like unpack.
Let's unpack this.
And like you had mentioned, put a pin in it, and also now with the ad, part of what frustrates me is it's the generations that want to force us to have certain vocabulary, and of course, and maybe this is a little off of the corporate speak topic, but we went through this transition, and where I work, that everyone started to create a new tag for themselves.
What do you mean tag?
He, him, zim, zer, z.
Oh, your pronouns.
So
yes.
Again, this is part of corporate speak, right?
Mm-hmm. It is now.
Yeah, true. It is now, and that's, again, maybe part of this utter frustration with the amount of energy and time we spend. And it's not dumbing us down, but making us all coalesce and get along better. And is it really working? Because the idea of you wanting to hear a certain thing come out of my mouth isn't necessarily what I think. And so it's a communication issue.
Well, I would overhear you in a meeting where somebody said that they wanted to speak their truth. Uh,
And
it's
have a safe space in
and
which
have a
to.
safe space. It's a job. You're at work. I I don't care what your truth is. You're here to do tasks and jobs, and you can live your truth at home. It
Oh, and then and so and to have and again someone half my age remind all of us that work together, and that encompasses obviously at least two generations, right?
hmm
We're talking, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40, 50, 60s, and then to have one specific generation fixated on the idea that we all have to, I hate to say again, coalesce around the idea of how they want to be spoken to, and it's not productive. It gets to a point where we spend more time listening to HR videos about, Mr. Do and Mr. Don't in the workplace. I mean, they used to be simple, don't harass the lady, don't call her something, don't compliment her on her looks, which again is unfortunate. That's the society we live in. But at the same time, it's we have to be careful about being secular is the word. When in talking about certain things that water cooler talk. There's no such thing as that anymore.
no.
Doesn't exist. Can it? Well, if it does, you're going to get in trouble for it.
But the funny thing is, you can't do it there, but then people will still blast things on social media where everybody can see.
Well, that's the guys. Again, that's the beauty of what technology has brought us. We can all be multiple personalities depending on what we're in the mood for, wherever and what platform, and so yeah. But and there, well, hell, there was a South Park episode. Remember when Butters was made to sanitize all the comments that
Yeah.
Cartman got, and it's the same thing. So and okay, we admittedly in the early days of YouTube, it was fun to create things. You put videos out there of our kids, etc. And I would get butthurt over everybody who made negative comments, and this bringing it back to the corporate speak. You're on eggshells constantly, worrying about how you come across or how you communicate because it's going to hurt somebody's feelings. And it used to be those feelings were yourself. You kept them to yourself.
Right.
You sucked it up.
Right.
If it was a consistent problem, yeah, sure. Maybe there's an HR issue. Maybe there's a reason to go to somebody for that type of disrespect. If it's a
truly
constant thing.
disrespect. But
But
now
it's
people
not.
want to go to HR if they don't agree with your opinion on something.
And how and
and
more
and
specifically how
if they don't like something.
yeah, and how you present that information, or and again how this particular offshoot of our conversation about corporate speak, you overheard one of our project managers talking about a safe space in order to facilitate the truth, right? But
Yeah.
but and so back to this court. So yeah, it gets confusing to me. It's like what are we trying? What are we trying to do when we meet? COVID brought an opportunity for technology really to shine. The idea of we had this disaster, which nobody planned for this disaster, a
Right.
pandemic, and we all have to work from home. The infrastructure couldn't handle it. Corporations didn't have enough, internal bandwidth to handle the VPN connections and the TCP, this, blah, blah, blah. I'm not talking technical, but what came out of that was this mindset that if you have a keyboard and a monitor, you can work from anywhere. And finally, there was this acceptance that you didn't have to be shoved into a 2x2 cube,
Mm-hmm.
sharing a floor with, all your other people, which most of the people that would work around you weren't really part of your project or worked
Mm-mm.
with you. They
Well,
just happened to work in the same
especially
company.
right. And half the time when you were in the office, you would go to a mini conference room and you would talk to people on the East Coast or the West Coast. They weren't even in your state. And
But-
yeah, you didn't need to be in the office to do that.
So I
You could
guess-
have done that from home.
Yes, so I guess my point back to corporate speak, it's we've all had this luxury. I don't call it luxury. It's a fact of life that if a keyboard and a monitor are part of your everyday, that's what you do. You can do that from anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
What unfortunately, from a corporate perspective, that really got, I think, made corporate America realize that middle management wasn't needed.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't need somebody to walk around, do bed checks, constantly make sure that somebody's there in the office.
Right.
Because
So when they were working from home, what were they doing? They
right. Used to, monitor your keyboard strokes or monitor how long you were on. I've worked in projects, and the organization I've been with is how do you monitor the level of interest in a WebEx YouTube presentation? You can't with a camera. You could certainly measure eye movements. You could measure activity on the screen, and all that goes back to this notion of Big Brother making sure from a corporate perspective you're doing something, you're being productive, and that only happened in the office, not when you were
right at home. I was just giggling thinking about when you were, before COVID, you were in the office and they put sensors outside of your cubicle, which wasn't a cubicle because they had the little pony walls, which I don't understand, but they had something to monitor your foot traffic if you were in the cubicle or not, and to which you were just hopping over.
Well, and so we eventually did that, but
Yeah.
but they told us that it was, to help understand the real
Flow.
estate,
Yeah.
the real estate need, right? So how many people were sitting in their chair and yet, and this is what, and maybe we'll talk about this with AI, some conversation, but you can interpret that sort of data however you want. Just because somebody's sitting at their desk
Doesn't mean they're doing work.
that doesn't mean that it could be taking a nap.
Right.
Who knows? Or of course,
Like
what
in
I
office
learned to do is
space. And I kind of stare at my computer and zone out for a couple hours.
right, or like what we learned how to do was once we discovered the sensors under our desk,
Mm-hmm.
we put tape over them to make it look like somebody was there.
Right.
And then, oh my God, they realized that, Jesus, we got people that are there 24 hours a day.
Well, and then since you didn't have doors in your, quote, little pony cubicle, then they had those flags to symbolize whether you were available to talk, that you would put one flag up for this. And I said, well, it's a good thing I wasn't there, because I would have taken the flags and done a little drill team routine with it throughout the...
Well, that's a good point. And that was another thing that I think, it's another thing that the younger generations invented because they didn't want to have to be rude and tell you not to come over and bother them.
Yeah.
Or if you had a
that's
question.
right. Because you're not supposed to communicate.
Well,
you're just supposed to...
Well, it was that function, but also where it truly was more of an invention, I think, to prevent those that are rude, that will come over while you're on the phone or in a meeting, or you're heavy duty typing something, and they're going to stand there until they get their answer, until they get attention. So this was a cute little way, and as I said, I could see both sides.
Cute.
One of my favorite things was again during COVID, this again corporate speak sort of. I guess it all falls under that, and we're just complaining about work, but the reality is that when COVID hit and we all tried to understand how to be successful remotely, and I remember our organization sent out a bunch of paddles.
Oh my God, that was hysterical for your Zoom meetings.
So we had to paddle. We had one paddle that had thumbs up on one side, one with thumbs down, and you could hold that up to the camera to indicate that you thumbs up or thumbs down. And the other
Because on
side
those
was,
Zoom meetings, there were so many people you couldn't all talk, so they wanted a visual representation and a way to do a bed check to make sure
that you're. Well, but what's ironic now is that since then there is now a version of Zoom or Teams, or there's too many of them, that you have those little emotion icons. What do they call them? Emoticons. Yeah, now you can click on an emoticon and have an animated thumbs up represent your interest or your acknowledgement.
You couldn't see my eye roll just now.
Well, and we thought about, as we were looking and doing this, not to deviate for a minute, but what ADHD does to you, the idea of we watched others and we learned from, entertained by other podcasts, entertained by other forms of media that are like this, that are, again, entertainment, and some have cameras, some don't. So we've toyed with the idea of having cameras that might come in the future. Who knows? Or I can do like they did on the Jetsons, and it was a picture of a cutout of George sitting at his desk, which is ironic because I think that's what it's come down to. Is it just proves that you're sitting there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, back to the idea of we've developed these cliches, words, sayings. We've reinforced the idea that you can be your own self, which I always think is again, maybe this is not corporate speak, but in a way it's a bit of corporate America today, that you can be addressed in a he, him. Part of HR now is you have to indicate on your personal files how you want to be addressed and how and what you affiliate with, And matter of fact, the organization I work for had this is back before COVID. We had an event where if you wanted to, you could go stand out on the putting green to signify your allegiance towards a certain team. And, again, not to
then you got a prize. You got a prize for doing it too.
Sure, yeah. But it goes the other way. If us heterosexuals spend as much time making everyone consider us heterosexual than the rest of the world, again, I don't want to get anyone upset, but it's this notion of how you come to work,
and it has no. You don't need to talk about sex at work. You don't need to talk about sex at work. Who you're doing, how you're doing it.
Right. It upsets me though that I hate to use the word they, because now me as a male, older, I think I'm the they, and I'm the minority. But it's unfortunate that, or it feels unfair that we put so much emphasis on the getting along at work sort of idea.
It's work. It's a job.
It's supposed to be. But, so back to the idea of these corporate speak words like...
and you can't just do something. You have to socialize it first. So you're not... You can't do anything. You don't say you want to get an opinion on it or get sign off on it. You need to... You want to let it marinate.
Yeah,
for a little bit.
Those are good words.
That's a good one.
Absolutely.
Let this marinate. Let's socialize this. Put a pin in it.
I mean, can you imagine?
We're gonna block and tackle. Block and tackle.
In a way that the words make sense, but we spend so much time putting this into everyone's head, and then they turn around and next year it becomes some new fad or some new methodology for how we all are supposed to be productive at work, whether it's, and again, not to go into the IT thing, but methodology being, is the project run in iterations? Is it waterfall? Is it,
And you've been around long enough that, when new methodologies come out or new software that you're like, oh, so this is like, mm, and they don't understand what you're talking about. And of course you can't be right, and you can't say the shortcomings of it. Like why can't we do this was perfectly fine, and now we're using this which has a lot of shortcomings. But you're not allowed to say that. You're just supposed to march ahead.
Well, yeah, everyone has to coalesce around what the latest greatest thing was purchased, and it's it's just that big love fest that has to exist from the top corporate speak person in your organization who
has no idea what the people beneath them actually do.
But and the words they choose are just it's generic. It's we're doing this. We're looking to be what's my favorite one is the phrase of being agile. We need to be more agile,
and we need to pivot
and react more quickly to change. Okay, what does that mean exactly? Because if I were to ask, have I checked my code? And well, you have to understand, you all need to react to when I check in my code, as opposed to worrying about a deadline. It's a lot of nothing. I guess that's the whole bottom line to what I think, this corporate speak thing is. And then we kind of deviated a bit on the whole idea of, melding of generations in the workplace that, and now another topic for the future is a lot of these younger generations don't want to work full time.
No.
Hell, the idea of,
and that's why they can't pay back their student loans either.
Well, that they don't want to. There's a difference.
Right.
But
they don't want to work full time in order to pay it back. So it should just be paid off.
I know, but I'm also at that age now that I don't want to work full time.
Well,
and it's
you've worked a lifetime, so
it is what it is. But so I don't know that we can. I think we've taken the pin out.
Mm-hmm.
We've circled the wagons isn't really a corporate speak thing.
Mm-mm.
I was just thinking, but yeah, we've kind of taken that look back. Like I said in one of our future conversations, we're going to have a whole series on what we did in IT, fun stories, Y2K stories.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Oh yeah, but was it? And was it really? I mean, if you think about what that was that laziness that we decided we didn't want to include the century
right
in things, and or I guess, and in all honesty, what was the reason we thought things were going to crash or break? I mean, how banks? I worked at a bank at that time, and banks made sure that there was extra money in ATMs, and it was crazy. The things that we were all concerned about.
Right, because any calculation, the way they used to calculate a time span would be crashing because.
Well, I know, but also
you can't go from a smaller number and subtract the bigger number. It wouldn't accept that
zero.
Would be a negative number, and there was no such thing. You just it was the calculation.
Yeah. That was mainly mainframe because in the Windows world everything was Gregorian. There was Gregorian calendar, and if you will, that in essence is the way to have solved the century problem. But yeah, so we've honestly taken a nice look back at some of the things that you all might experience on a day-to-day basis with corporate speak. And there any new or hip cliche sayings that you've heard or that you're dealing with, or hell, that you've come up with?
Yeah,
like 6-7. I'm trying to get that one at work. Oh, and speaking of which, I did one of my favorite stories recently was we're at Jira, and Jira is Atlassian, which is another methodology that most corporations are using today to run projects. and I convinced a half a dozen execs that it's not pronounced Jira, it's Jira. And so they were saying Jira for many, many months until people would laugh, and I finally admitted that I told you to say that the wrong way. But so, yeah, that's my story.
Well, yeah. Let us know what kind of bullshit bingo shenanigans you get into. Harmless stuff. I don't want to hear anything, evil, maniacal that you're doing, but just the little things to make it easier to get you through the day.
So, yeah. We certainly again appreciate any feedback, comments, suggestions. Smash whatever smashing thing there is to smash about smashing us, and letting us know that it's entertaining, or at least it helps pass your time if you're
commuting
driving to and fro, or you're doing laundry, or whatever. And like I said, we've got some other conversations coming up around those topics, and anything else that you might want to hear. So
all right,
again, once again, appreciate the opportunity. This is Jim.
This is Diane.
Listening to The Works.